All right, for his analysis of day two campaigning, the guy who landed that big question yesterday, let's bring in Sky News political editor Andrew Clennell joining me from Melbourne also. Well, Andrew, you were front and centre in that gaffe. Terrible set of news bulletins last night. Front pages this morning, also a shocker for Labor, including down in Tasmania. Let's have a look. Here's the Sydney Daily Telegraph. Not good. Here's Victoria's Herald Sun. Not good either. They were like that right around the country. The mop-up line from Labor is all about Albanese having the integrity to admit he made a mistake. Here was Jason Clare today.
Politics is not a pop quiz. Leadership is not a pop quiz. This is not a game between journalists and politicians here. What leadership is about is identifying what are the problems in our country and coming up with solutions for them.
Now that's supreme spin, if I've ever seen it there. It's not a pop quiz. We're not asking about capital cities in foreign countries. You were asking, and journalists like Stella Todorovic were asking about the absolute fundamentals that you have to have top of mind if you're going to fashion policy that works for all Australians. That's the problem, Andrew.
Yeah, I thought you summed it up pretty well, Peter, when you spoke about he's used up his get-out-of-jail-free card. That's certainly the belief of Labor strategists at the moment. They now fear another moment where that sort of piles onto his initial mistake. So, as someone said to me, it's not terminal, but he's lost the advantage in the election campaign. So, a real hammer blow at the start of the campaign for Labor. And what was happening there was Stella Todorovic, as you said, was asking about the cash rate. Claire Armstrong from the Daily Telegraph was asking about the Tasmanian unemployment rate. I reckon it would be okay to miss that one, in my view. I just decided to go for the jugular because there was so much sort of toing and froing and around on these things, this gotcha game. I said, OK, mate, what's the national unemployment rate? Similar to when I asked the PM about the petrol price and the price of rats. Couldn't believe it when he couldn't answer. Couldn't believe it, Peter. So it's just fundamental. I mean, you know, my mum texted me from Perth last night.
It's fundamental.
Saying, even I know the unemployment rate. I mean, yeah, and so I think it was an absolute shocker. It also played into the government's narrative, as you know, and the fact we're talking about it tonight and it happened at 9:30 a.m. yesterday morning tells you everything that you need to know.
I'm going to get into the betting market a little bit later on in the show, but it's already started to move the coalition's numbers in that market, which I think is often better than the polls. So I'll get to that a bit later in the show. Mr Howard's comments would have been well received last night by Labor's CHQ. He has walked them back. Today he's replaced it with this.
Is it so bad that Anthony Albanese didn't know that number today?
Look, is that a serious question?
Yeah, Anthony Albanese didn't know the unemployment rate today.
Yeah, well, I'm not, you know, OK, well, Anthony Albanese didn't know the unemployment, all right. So what?
Yeah, I'm sorry there, they've got the wrong grab for you. Today he was on a panel and he said, absolutely, you've got to know that question if you want to be Prime Minister. My point a bit earlier in the program, Andrew, was this can play with a leader's head. This can affect their momentum, of course it has, but it'll affect their confidence too. He can't hide. It's not like he's out in regional Australia with just a regional press pack. He's got the best out of Canberra and beyond. This is going to be a very long campaign for him. He's got nowhere to hide.
Yeah, no, but I totally agree with your analysis before. Apart from not knowing who the Human Rights Commissioner was, which wasn't ideal, he did perform pretty well today otherwise. And I reckon there was a huge sigh of relief from his staff, Campaign HQ, his entire shadow cabinet and caucus at that. And he's just got to keep that up, essentially. Like you say, he's got no room to move now, but better for it to happen early. But I definitely think, imagine if he stuffed up big time again today, where he'd be. So I think it has rocked him, but maybe in a way it's kind of the rocket that he needs as well to not relax and get complacent and think that everyone hates Scott Morrison. So he's halfway to the lodge, because he certainly ain't.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. And of course, you know, I say this as a commentator, you've got to keep your objectivity. You might have a horse in the race. You know, everyone knows my Liberal history. You might have a horse in the race. You might want a particular side to win. But if you think your opponent is done and dusted off one mistake and you've won the election, you're kidding yourself. History tells you you haven't. It's a long way to go. Let's talk about the seat of Fowler in New South Wales. This is the seat that Kristina Keneally has been parachuted into, Western Sydney. We learned today a popular mayor and a very popular deputy mayor in Fairfield, they're teaming up and they want to stop Keneally. The deputy mayor, Di Lee, she will run as an independent, while the mayor, Frank Carbone, says he'll actively support her campaign. Now, people have said to me, if Carbone was to run himself, he would romp it in. But even if he just helps out on the Di Lee campaign, this will shake up the Keneally camp, won't it?
Well, it'll put pressure on Keneally and Labor. At this point, though, I would still expect Keneally to win it with Di Lee running. And it's a very good point you raised. Perhaps if Frank Carbone ran, it'd be a different story, but it'll take resources away. The reason I say that in relation to Di Lee and Keneally is that Di Lee has run as a Liberal before for Cabramatta. She always did well, but she never, you know, she didn't get that close because it's kind of it's such a safe Labor area, should I say, and that's what Fowler is. And the other aspect to this, Peter, Labor, I've spoken to some people just before coming on air knowing we're going to talk about this. Their belief is, and I think it has some merit, that they are so late to come into the race. If you compare it with the Teal independents, the amount of fundraising they've been doing, campaigning they've been doing, for an independent to just come in now, and if it's not Frank Carbone, and try and get there in 5 weeks, it's a tough ask. But yes, I think Kristina Keneally will be sweating a bit tonight.